In this video, we're going to continue on with the butterfly valve, and we're just going to do the nut and the screw. One of the things I did forget to show you all is at the end of this edge, there should have been a chamfer at of a 45 degrees. So to do the chamfer, underneath the solid tab, pull it down and go to chamfer edge. Go ahead and pick this edge and do distance and 1. Hit enter, enter, enter. And now it's got a chamfered edge on it if you look in here. So that's all you have to do for the chamfered edge. Also, one other thing, when I brought this circle in, when I brought the shaft and the plate in, I was actually 3.1 millimeters too high. So when you look at your left side view, what I mean was this object was actually up a little bit and into this arm here. So the reason that was is because I actually moved it by the midline, the actual midline, and it should have been moved, or I take that back. I actually moved it by the bottom where the flat plate was. And it should have been moved down by the midline. So if you followed me in the last video to locate this, turn your view to the left side, and when you look at it, it would have been up a little high. All you have to do is move the shaft and the plate downward 3.1 millimeters, and it should work out fine. If you have problems, just let me know and I'll help you out with that. Now, let's talk about the nut and the screw. So the nut goes onto the side of the object here. So we didn't actually create threads in this exercise, and I'm not going to worry about putting threads onto it on that shaft for tightening the screw down. But we're going to just go ahead and pretend that it's got threads on it. So I'm just going to show you how to do the nut. So the nut is going to be basically a hexagon, and we're going to put a fillet on the edge with a radius of 5. So the nut is actually, when we're looking at it, it would be best to draw it in the right side view. So the size of the object is going to be a polygon. So I'm going to come over here and make sure I'm in left. I'm going to type in polygon. And I want a 6-sided polygon, and I'm just going to pick a point. No, it doesn't matter really where right now. It is inscribed about a circle, and that circle has a radius of 40 because the whole diameter of that nut is 80. Now, when we're looking at this, I'm going to go ahead and switch this back to my southeast view. I'm going to take this and I'm going to extrude it, and it needs to be extruded 25 millimeters. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to the solid, and I am going to fillet that edge. I'm going to click on each one of these edges. Hit enter with a radius of 5 millimeters, and I'm just going to keep hitting enter until it, oops, this edge wasn't done. So fillet this edge and this edge. Alright, so just make sure you pick all edges around. So now I've got my hex nut, but now I've got to create the circle from the hole so that I can screw the nut onto the edge. So to find the center of that, I am just going to go from end point, and I'm going to change this style so I can actually see the edges to grip. So I'm going to draw a polyline from this end point to this, whoop, so I need to go southwest and front. So polyline from this end point to, take my snaps off, to this end point. I am having a hard time gripping that. Bring it over here. Oh, goodness gracious. I'm going to do it from the right side view. This is one of the reasons that you have to be in the proper setting. So let me go to the top view. Polyline, whoops. And until you get used to it, it's going to be hard to determine which side you need to grip by. So polyline, enter, and enter. Should have been my right side view, and I should have done it down here in the right view just to make my life a little bit easier. The reason I drew that line is so I could find the center point. So I know that that has to be the at least a diameter of 37.5. So I'm going to draw a circle from the center of that and make sure that I am in the right side view and right side view. So I'm going to draw a circle with a diameter of 37.5. Now I'm going to go ahead and extrude this out to here. I'm going to change that to conceptual. And then I'm just going to subtract from this object there. Now, the nice thing is I can actually come over here. And again, like I said, I keep switching back between wireframe. It's because I want to move this object, that solid, from where that center point is here. That center point here. So I can move it to the center point here. So when I turn it back to conceptual, it's touching the edge, and I can see that it's touching the edge here. Okay, now the next portion, and it does appear that I have a gap, so I may have one of them that's actually a little bit longer than it needs to be. I have to check that out. When I drew the shaft, it should have been 20, it should be 89.8. So as we go through these, you'll see if they actually fit together. That's the good thing about the, it's a good thing about the assembled drawings. So I'm just going to copy this to confirm it. I just made a copy. And I want to determine what that length is linearly from the center of this point to the center that point is. And it's 89.9, so it's the correct length. So not sure why, unless I've got a typo somewhere else. Anyway, it fits pretty good, but it does have a gap here. So one of those things where as we move through, you should double check your measurements. But since this is our first project, this is going pretty well. All right, now that I've got my nut, I am going to do my screw. And the easiest way to do the screw, and note, the screw is actually going to be fitting into these holes here. So we want to draw them in the front view. It's easier to assemble that way. So I'm going to go to the front view, and I'm going to go to the front view. I'm going to go ahead and delete that out. Now, the diameter of this object is going to be the 12.5. So we said that these holes up here were a diameter of 20.3. So what I'll do down here is, so down here, what I'm going to do is I am going to draw a profile of this, and I'm going to revolve it about a center line. So I'm just going to arbitrarily, I'm going to turn my grid off also. I don't really need that. So I'm going to draw a polyline, and I'm going to turn my ortho on. So half of 20.3 is 1015, and that length is 38. And I'm going to go up 1015. Okay, so that's basically this edge here. So now I need to draw, I'm going to go ahead and draw a polyline from this end out of 15. Because what I want to do is I want to draw a circle that has a radius of 15. Okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw half, and however you all need to do it, I'm doing a little backwards here. And I'm going to trim this up. So I don't need this portion or this portion or this portion. Okay, so what I'm going to end up having revolved, and I'm going to bring this down to that end point, and I'm going to trim this out. So I've got half of my screw. So I'm going to do BO for boundary. No, I'm going to do P edit. And I'm going to select all of these pieces. And I'm going to say yes, I'm going to convert them. I'm going to J for join. Enter, so it's got a 0 fuzz distance, and enter again. So basically now I've got this polyline. So I am going to pull down on the Home tab and I'm going to revolve it from the center to this line. And it's 360 degrees. Now when I look at it here, I have my nut. Now in this view, I'm going to rotate this around so I can see the end. And it needs to have a chamfer. And I'm going to, a chamfer. And I'm going to assume that's just a 45-degree chamfer. So I'm going to go to the Solids tab, pull down chamfered edge, and I'm going to pick that edge. Distance, I'm going to let it be arbitrarily be 1, hit enter, and enter, and enter again. Okay, now the next thing I need to do is I need to create this slot. Well, that slot is in the center of the object. So if I look at it from the right side view, and I'm just going to change it to conceptual. So I'm looking at the end. So let me look at it at the left side view and the left side view. By doing that, I am now looking at the head of the object. So in this one, I'm actually going to draw a polyline, and I'm just going to change the color of this to be red. Okay, now in this it says it's 3 millimeters from the base of the object. So I'm going to offset that 3 this direction. Whoops. Make sure I'm going to change that to front and front. So I'm going to offset that 3. For whatever reason, it is not letting me offset. So you know what? I can't seem to offset, so I'm just going to click M for move. I moved it forward 3. Now, I'm going to go ahead and change that back to a wireframe. And I can see that it's here. Now, I'm going to try offset again because I'm going to offset it to that direction and that direction. The reason I'm doing that is I'm going to create a polyline that goes from endpoint to endpoint, endpoint to endpoint, and close. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that and I'm going to change and go to extrude and extrude it out. And then I'm just going to subtract this one from that one. Okay? So, and now I don't need all of these lines in here. Now when I'm looking at this, and I'm going to go back to my southwest view, I should be able to move this based on the center mark to that center hole here, and I should be able to copy from that center mark to that center mark. Now, I have to be able to see, let me switch that back. I'm not really good at the whole rotation thing. I'm just going to arbitrarily move this out to get it out of my way, and I'm going to move it 50 millimeters just to get it out of the way, and I moved it a specific distance. So I'm going to copy this from that center mark to that center mark, and then I can actually move this back the 50 millimeters. Now, I want to look at this from the front view. So I've got it, so there is gap enough that this arm, the arm when it starts to swivel, does not hit the screw. So now what we've got is an entire solid object assembled. You can see down inside of it, and you can see inside of it. All right, so I'm going to go back to my single view. So we are done with the butterfly valve. That's it for this video.